This is More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Thank you for joining us for another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton. Now it's sponsored by one of the most historic and haunted places in all of North America called the Lemp Mansion. If you don't know the story of the Lemp Mansion, look it up. It is a really cool place in St. Louis with events and weddings and all kinds of great stuff and amazing history. So you're going to be hearing about that coming up later on as well. Also, don't forget, you can follow me all over social media, like, follow, share, all that good stuff, subscribe, and all the social media icons are down below. That's where I am, so feel free to follow me at Randy Naughton. And you know what? That's the way you can keep up with all of our latest episodes and our guests, which right now we're going to welcome in our next guest. We're talking tutoring. All right, raise your hand if you're a parent whose child has sat in a library or the kitchen table struggling with a particular subject. We are talking with Brian Galvin. He is the Chief Academic Officer of a company called VARSITY Tutors. Hello, Brian. How are you?
Hey, Randy, great to be here. Thanks for having me. And I do need to check out the Lemp Castle, so I'm already taking notes.
Lemp Mansion, it's really cool. It's considered one of the most haunted places in all of North America. And for those who dare to stay overnight, there are stories. That's all I'm telling you, Brian. There are stories.
I said I'd look it up, not stay overnight. But yeah, I digress.
You can do it. All right. Let's talk about Varsity Tutors. Now, I recently read an article about your CEO, Mr. Cohn, and I'm like, that name sounds darn familiar. And I'm like, I think I spoke to Mr. Cohn on TV when I worked in TV, gosh, 2014 maybe, when they were just starting this company, college students out of Washington University in St. Louis. And now it is a nationwide, worldwide company that helps people with their academics at every level. Now I'm doing your stick. You tell us how it goes.
No, that's basically it. Yeah, started as a local St. Louis company with eyes on going nationwide and even beyond that. And since that time, company's gone public, traded on the New York Stock Exchange under Nerdy. We tutor in something like 3,000 subjects and have a whole bunch of other. It's an educational and technology company, so there's one-on-one tutoring. There's instant tutoring. We were talking earlier about Monday Night Football's on, but my kid has a project, and you can click a button and a tutor will be there right away. So we're using technology, chat tutoring to be able to get quick questions answered. So we really expanded to find more ways. The mission statement, I'm sure you talked to Chuck about 10, 15 years ago, is to seamlessly connect learners with experts in any subject, anytime, anywhere. And we spent the last decade plus really fulfilling that promise and are happy to talk about it.
So Brian, your role is the Chief Academic Officer. What is your, subject of expertise? What are you like schooled in? What is your expertise?
Learning. It's fun. I get to learn for a living. So I've taught high school history. I've taught SAT, ACT, GMAT, GRE, and I've gotten to learn a whole bunch of top math. In a bunch of different levels. But one of the fun things about being here, where we teach anyone who wants help in any subject at any time, is sort of, as a company, we've had to figure out how to become learners. So I've learned a lot about AI in the last couple of years. As
we'll get to that. I'm so curious about that.
So yeah, all kinds of things.
So who uses your service?
It's really learners. It's an all of the above answer, I guess. So we have kind of our consumer learners, families. It's really anything from even pre-K and kindergarten students through graduate students, folks getting professional certifications. We also have a Varsity Tutors for Schools business where we have relationships with over 1,000 school districts around the country that embed tutoring throughout the day, with some of their funding to be able to catch up from COVID learning loss, summer learning loss. So it really is everyone. We were talking a little bit before, some people that use Varsity Tutors. I'm always pleasantly surprised when I meet a neighbor or an old college friend or somebody that goes, wait, you work there? My kids use that. So it really is everyone.
So I know that people put like ads on Facebook. Hey, I'm looking for a tutor to help my kid with their math, or I'm this or that, but they can literally go online, and the tutor doesn't have to be in the same city as the student, do they?
Exactly. Yeah, that was sort of the whole vision that, I'm sure you talked to Chuck about before, was back on a college campus 15, 20 years ago, where you had to pull the phone number ticket off the kiosk and
Right.
call and figure out who you were even talking to. There's got to be a better way. There's got to be a way. If you need tutoring, you don't have to go hunt around and look for it. And so if you come to us, we talk to you about your profile. Why are you or your learner? What subject is it? What concepts are they struggling with? Where do they learn best? Like, who are their favorite teachers and why? Why aren't they quite, understanding what's going on now? What their sort of their academic history? And we take all that into consideration and then match them with a tutor who's an expert in that subject, who's available at the times that they are, which has always been a tricky thing when you're
Right.
that tab or searching on Facebook, who has a similar teaching style to how they like to learn best, or what you think they need. So it really is a one-stop shop. Whatever you're looking to learn, come tell us about it, and we'll connect you with a perfect expert to be able to help you.
Well, most schools are kind of rolling along right now with their curriculum, having started, a month or so ago, and we're coming on up to the holiday breaks and things. Is this around the time of the year where you kind of start to see an uptick in people looking for help for their students?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
It even starts a little bit before school starts, and we can
really.
probably get to that at some point. But now is sort of that, inflection point where a student that used to like reading or math is now frustrated, doesn't want to do that homework, or assignments that used to come in with stars or A's on them are coming back with a little more red ink than before. And parents are trying to find out why and looking to get that help before, that one or two little learning gaps becomes a big chasm that they have to catch up with.
I remember, and I'm going to share this vision with you, when my daughter was in middle school and my husband was an executive with a major corporation. My daughter was struggling in math, and my husband decided to go back to complete his business degree. Well, my daughter was taking algebra, and I'm the worst mathematical dunce on earth. And my husband was also taking algebra. So I have a photograph of both of them at the kitchen table, each with a math tutor sitting there. And I'm proud to say they are both now college graduates.
I love it. That's
Thanks
just
to tutors.
heartwarming. That's
Yes.
Yeah. That's actually a good habit when learning is a family affair, when students don't feel singled out for being the one that has to do their homework or the one that has a tutor. If and actually part of our model is, if you're doing tutoring with us, your entire family can take advantage of our, online classes, the whole catalog of other things, so that learning can become kind of a family thing. So I love that you did that.
Well, it's time for another Lemp History Minute, sponsored by the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. Did you know that in 1980, Time magazine published an article in which they named the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis one of the most haunted places in all of North America? Many say the Lemp Mansion is haunted because four members of the very wealthy and successful Lemp family died in that mansion, three of them by suicide. Now, since those days, many people have dined at the mansion or even stayed overnight, had events there, and a lot of them sort of reported some very eerie occurrences. Faces peering out of windows, unexplained eerie events, noises being picked up by paranormal equipment. Today, the Lemp Mansion is thriving as a restaurant, as an event space, as a really cool place to go for all the fun events they put on, scavenger hunt, boozy bingo, tours, you name it. And this is the perfect time of the year to book you and your friends at the Lemp Mansion, whether it's just to have a lunch or a dinner, or if you dare, stay overnight. And if you haven't visited the Lemp in a while, do check them out and all the great events they have. Their website, lempmansion.com.
Hello, and thank you for listening to More to Say with Randy Naughton. When you're done with this episode, come check out another fun podcast called Mostly Superheroes, a variety talk show featuring me, your host Logan, Andy the Giggler, Scotty Scoop, and guests just like Randy Naughton, Steve Ewing, and Sean Gunn, and many more. Getting your fix for Marvel, Star Wars, TV, film, and inspiring stories from people in our community. Find more at mostlysuperheroes.com, search Mostly Superheroes in your podcast app and on YouTube, and ask your smart speaker, play the latest episode of Mostly Superheroes, the podcast. Enjoy the rest of this episode of More to Say with Randy Naughton, and we'll see you over at mostlysuperheroes.com.
You mentioned about students losing some of what they've learned in school over the summertime. I want to talk about how you kind of ramp them back up for the school year to mentally prepare their brain and all that good stuff. And we got to talk about the pandemic. We're a couple of years removed from that now. And we know that virtual learning was great for some students, terrible for others. And so many kids lost so much of what they learned when they were literally in the classroom. Do you still see that some kids are struggling to get back to where they were pre-pandemic or pre-summertime? Is that how that works?
Oh, absolutely. That's where, I mentioned we have our schools business. That really only started after the pandemic when schools were saying, we know that tutoring is the only learning intervention that's proven to work at scale. So they came to us. We started that whole business because schools were saying, we have teachers who say their kids use varsity tutors, or can you guys help? Because, as the nation's largest live learning platform, we really had the scale to be able to plug in and do that. And schools are still working on catching kids up from,
Yeah.
if you think about almost like a game of shoots and ladders, there was a big shoot, right? The slide with COVID, and they climb up a little bit, and then there's a holiday break, and for 2 weeks they're out of school, and then maybe a snow day, and then there's a summer. So you're kind of always playing a little bit of catch up unless kids are getting some kind of supplemental education outside of school. So you mentioned summer learning loss. Really, I'm always fascinated by the amount of learning loss when they measure it at Brookings Institute, always big, all the national education organizations and everything. It's always significantly more pronounced for math than for reading. And really the reason is why is kids tend to read a little bit over the summer. Not everyone, but kids, there are library programs, kids get books, and they'll read something over the summer, so they use it. Whereas not as many kids do math over the summer. So really any of that learning loss comes down to use it or lose it. And the more repetition and exposure kids get with it, the more helpful. And then I also want to hit the, learning loss was, or sorry, online learning was good for some and not for others. The
Right.
biggest thing there is that what we got in 2020 was one size fits all online learning. And
Yeah,
really what
nobody
you
did
need,
that
you got a
before.
learner
I
who's
mean, everyone was shooting from the hip there, right?
Oh yeah. You can't blame an individual teacher for
No.
saying, I had this planned and I can't do that tomorrow because we're online. But the more personalized it is, I think when students are behind, and that's kind of what, we're talking at this time of year because you asked, how do we catch students up? A lot of it comes back to figuring out what are the one or two building block skills that they've forgotten, that they remember wrong. Sometimes just a kid is remembering a mnemonic device, but they remembered it wrong, or like in their mind, they're confidently doing a process and they transpose the order. And so they're getting wrong results. And if you can identify, hey, it's these three things you need to work on. So what we do in the fall is, do some diagnostic work on, what are your building block skills from last year? Which ones are strong and which ones do we need to fill in so that they're building on a really sound foundation? And so often that, I always hate the phrase, I'm not a math person, because when you talk to people and you get a chance to work with them, and
Sorry.
having done a lot of tutoring of adults, you go back in time and you find out, oh, it was those two things. It was that week that you're absent or you had a sub or, whatever the reason was. And it's that foundation got weak. And as you tried to build on it, nothing quite built right. And you just sort of thought it was you when really it was, we didn't personalize, we didn't identify what you needed to learn. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, the next question is a combo. If there is a parent listening right now and their child is, right after school and they haven't come out of the gate as the parent would want them to, how would a parent, caregiver, whomever, how do they know whether their student needs a tutor? And after going through varsity tutors and perhaps going through a number of sessions, what is the average time frame in which they would see some results?
Yeah, great questions. So in the beginning, there's some leading indicators of, typically if homework is more frustrating than it was a year prior, if enthusiasm for school is a little bit less than it was, if, a couple of grades that normally, weren't, normally are higher than they are now, you kind of see those leading indicators, and that probably means something's going on. And
Yeah.
generally those don't self-correct, right? Because, learning is built on top of concept on top of concept. And so if that's a little bit shaky, they fall a little bit further behind, maybe they're less likely to participate or ask for help. So when you get those leading indicators, sometimes students will say it, but not in as many words of, I don't like my teacher, he's not as clear as, Mrs. Whatever was last year, or, when they used to talk to you about what they learned, now it's like, school is fine. They'll kind of let you know a little bit that just things aren't quite there. So those are some of the leading indicators. You also get, parent teacher conferences aren't that far out, although if you
Right.
get those leading indicators, you may not want to wait that long. So those are some of the ways to be able to find that, even if just homework's more frustrating, if they used to like roll their eyes, but then go do it, and it would be done in a half an hour, and now it's a chore, they don't want to do it. Some of that's a natural part of growing up, but you can kind of tell sometimes that it's just, no,
Yeah.
this isn't like them. So if you get that, this isn't like them, that's a case to maybe ask the teacher how things are going, maybe kind of go through and ask them to explain, their homework or what they're learning or how school is going, and you can find those kind of things out.
And you
And in
mentioned
terms
a
of
bit
finding
ago.
results, oh, sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, and then you asked about, in terms of how long it takes to see some results. Generally, so that the criteria for tutoring to be effective at scale, we work with the National Student Success Accelerator to follow some of their criteria for what really is effective tutoring. They call it high dosage tutoring, which means it has to happen regularly over at least a handful of weeks, period of 8 to 10 weeks or something, to really become permanent. So you'll start to see pretty early the early indicators. Students are a lot happier about, they're happy to meet with their tutor. They feel good afterward. They're smiling after that in a way that they weren't, coming home from school. You start to, and a lot of what that is the tutors understanding them. They're involving them in the learning. They get chances to win where they get a couple little things right, and they start to build some confidence, and they start to see how they're going to get from, I don't understand this, to, okay, I got the first couple of steps. You start to see a little bit of that progress in the first couple meetings, that just their demeanor is a little bit different. They feel a little bit more confident, they have more of a can-do attitude. And then generally over, maybe 2 to 3 months, a lot of people will meet once a week or twice a week. So, you figure like, 8 to 10 meetings, then you can start to see really like
Oh, good.
tangible progress on report cards. And, you start to see that they've not just filled in the gaps that they had, that were helping them keep up, but they're actually seeing measurable results. And again, you continue to see that confidence and that positive feeling toward learning that
And
might
that
not
can
have been there
only
before.
build and grow with the student, and more confidence means better results. I did want to ask you, because you touched base a little while ago, very briefly, on AI. Now, we know that schools are like, you are not allowed to put this book report in, and if it's AI, we'll find out, and blah, blah, blah. But you guys are actually integrating AI now into some of your tutoring. It sounds counterintuitive, but how does that work?
One big mission we have that sort of the phrase, you walk around the halls of the office in St. Louis or talk to anyone in a virtual meeting, is AI for HI, which is artificial intelligence for human interaction. So, our philosophy is AI should support the human experience. So we're not, showing kids how to use ChatGPT to never do homework again, but a little bit more. Some of the things we do is, one, AI generated lesson plans. When we know a student's,
Oh,
goals, and we have their diagnostic results of what skills they need to work on, tutors don't have to use it. It's optional, but they get a lesson plan for that student saying, here are the things that they would need to work on. Here's a logical order that you could progress that in. Here's some practice content you might want to use with them. So the tutors start with a running start, understanding not just, I need to get to know this student, but okay, I have a feel for how I'm going to help them. So that's one. Another one that we love is, we work with these school districts, and it's ever, I say worked in a school, been in a school. Schools are chaotic. And so
yeah.
when we have these tutoring implementations, AI helps tell us, hey, there's a tutor that's a minute late for this session. And because all the sessions are online, if you have a kid at a computer in a room with 5 other kids at a computer getting tutoring, and they're idle and they have nothing to do, they'll probably distract those other 5 kids, and
Yeah.
then nobody wins. And so we have an AI detection. If someone's missing, then AI alerts the team here, we got to get another body in that room. So at least the kid is engaged and talking. Maybe the tutor's late, maybe they need a replacement. So we use that to be able to help us work with hundreds of school districts at any given time, and be able to make sure that there's always an expert face looking at that student, so they're not idle and distracting everyone else.
Wow. Well, this
And I
really
would
has
encourage one
come.
last one if I can. Sorry, I
Yeah.
get excited talking about this one. We have our AI tutor kind of like chatbot undersells it. One of my jobs is, if it's learning modalities, things that we're putting out in the world, let's test it. One, to make sure we like what it's doing, but two, to help people understand how you can use it. Our AI tutor bot, I have had some of the most just like delightful conversations on chatting online, because I would say, okay, I'm learning Spanish. How can you help me learn Spanish? And, most people use this as super Google, like translate this for me, tell me the Pythagorean theorem. But if you ask it to create study games for you, it's created games where, we'll write a song together back and forth. Like, hey, this is, tell me, what topic do you want our song to be about? And then I write a lyric, you write a lyric, or, it'll play games like, the
That
Hangman,
sounds like fun, Brian.
like I Spy, and it just plays these games. So you get to learn with it in a way that, if you're studying and you need to put in time by yourself, yeah, you could go through flashcards. You could just look down a list of words, or AI will play a learning game with you and make it fun.
That's amazing. And definitely when learning is more fun for the kids, it's more effective, obviously, even if it's a dry erase board or flashcards, which I'm going back to my daughter and what she used to do. But it's come so far from when Chuck Cohn was a guest on the morning show with me a bajillion years ago, and how far it's come with the new technology and everything else. So that's awesome. So for moms and dads or students or anybody who might be listening to this going, you know what? I might need these guys. How does anyone get a hold, and where do they start?
Try to make that really easy too. VARSITYTutors.com. If you come to that site, if you have a particular learning need, you'll be able to enter in subject and availability, some of those kind of things. Someone will give you a call to talk about it. Or if you just want to learn a little bit more about the company, we've got all kinds of free classes. One of the things I get to do is host our Star Course series. We've had astronauts, and we've got a Harvard admissions officer that comes in once a month to talk about admissions. Those are all free so that we can demonstrate. We don't want to just tell you we're here to add value. Online learning can really transform your family's relationship with learning and success with it. Come check us out there. So there are free classes to get to know us and not get to know us, get to know your subject a little bit more. But if you have a particular learning need, you can set up a call, or an educational consultant will talk to you about how we may be able to help, and how, what type of tutor is going to get the most out of your child's time or your time.
That's fantastic. Love to hear about St. Louis success stories, Brian. I thank you so much for joining me today. This has been really, really enlightening. Great stuff. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Randy. Let's not wait 10 years for the next one. Let's do this again soon.
Let's do it again. All right. Maybe I'll learn math by then. Okay.
So we can help.
All righty. And this is
going
to do it for another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton. Thank you for joining us. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, the Lent Mansion in St. Louis, and our podcast partner, Logan Janis, as well. And again, follow me, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and follow me all over social media, because I'm all over social media. Until next time.
This has been More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Be sure to like or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.